Welcome, everybody, to Canadian Sober, eh? I'm your host and resident alcoholic, Dougie Fresh. So glad you're with us today. So when somebody joins recovery, it could include a ton of things, struggles. I can tell you my first year in Alcoholics Anonymous or in AA or any other recovery program, it was a struggle. And some of us have more struggles than others, and some of us have it really, really easy. It just depends on the way it goes, I guess. I had the opportunity to listen to our next guest's story last week, and I can tell you that this guy is the real deal, and he's here for the real reasons. And I'm so blessed and glad that he wanted to join us today. So please, at home, eating your popcorn, give it up for John. How you doing, John?
I'm doing well today. Thank you, Doug, for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here, man. Thanks for being here. So can you tell the world that's watching who John is?
Well, I'm a fellow who was unfortunately I grew up in a real traumatic way right from the get-go. I survived a plane crash at the early age of 2.5, and I was with my mother and my grandfather, and so as a result of that tragedy, it really kicked off a whole lot of pain, a whole lot of dysfunction, a whole lot of hurt in my world. And as unfortunate as it was, I believe today it's my fortune, really. I consider myself a miracle in more ways than one. But that plane accident, led me to a long stay. A long history of visits at Sick Kids Hospital in the burn unit. There was a lot of pain there, and not just myself or my mother, but my immediate family, my household. The family in the household was very affected as well, and so there was a lot of drinking that I was around. Once I left that hospital, I basically went into a home that was riddled with alcoholism, by my father, and so there was a lot of fear, there was a lot of confusion, and there was a lot of abuse going on, and physical, mental, emotional. And so it was really unfortunate in the beginning for me. Like I said, there was a lot of confusion because I was so young and I didn't understand what was happening around me or even to myself at that point, right? All I knew is that I was different from a lot of the other kids. And so having that feeling of indifference really was really unsettling for me as well. It created a lot of anger. I was like in survival mode, and being in survival mode at that age or during those years of childhood and right through my whole entire life, really, it brought on so much. I just refer to as insanity, really. Eventually, the family split, and I went with my mother. I had two older sisters. I was the youngest of three at the time, and so in those days, my father was the breadwinner and whatnot. So my mother went on with her life with us three kids and on her own, and really struggled to provide financially. I remember going to school, no lunches, just just a lot of not having material things as most kids would have. I never had like any kind of new bike for per se, or any designer clothes or anything like that. That was just not even, that wasn't even possible. So really, I grew up real fast, real hard. Whether it was in the schoolyard fighting or in the neighborhood fighting, I was constantly stealing from other kids while on recess. I remember one particular time in my life where it was normal for me to go back into the school while on recess and go into other kids' lunch bags and lunch pails and whatnot, and take food while no one was around, just so that I could eat. And I just, that was like the norm for me. I just, that was just my life. And I really didn't see any other way, or know any other way. And so that really created a lot of alcoholism related characteristics, if you will, right? And so as time went on, and I got introduced to alcohol at around the age of 12, 13 years old. That was a sense of relief for me. That effect really had a sense of, it was like an escape for me. Because what was going on inside my mind and my body was turmoil. It was pain, and I had just a sense of feeling of when I started drinking at an early age. And it just started out like a weekend type of events, with these older kids that I would hang out with in the neighborhood. But having those ism type characteristics at such an early age, that weekend fun really turned into quickly turned into any chance I could get. I would want that effect. I would escape how I thought, or how I felt. And the family was very dysfunction, like I mentioned. So there was a lot of times where I was in trouble at home. And I sustained a lot of physical abuse, a lot of mental abuse, emotional abuse, as a result of just the pressures of life. My mother didn't have it easy by any means. I know she did the best she could, but when it was all said and done, it was just really, really unfortunate upbringing. So any chance I could get, I would drink to escape my thoughts, my emotions, and so it caused a great deal of pain on top of what I had already been experiencing from within. And so I quickly got myself into trouble with the law. I was 16 years old, and I was facing some pretty serious charges, alcohol related, of course. And I was always a blackout. And the effect of alcohol had always given me this blackout effect. So I didn't even know, I was so out of control in so many aspects within my own mind and my own body. So I was introduced to the law at the age of 16, and by this time I had suicidal thoughts. I hated my life. I hated who I had become. I hated that survival mode. right? And so I was always constantly lashing out, like I said. And so the troubles with the law came really, really quick in my life, at the early age of 16. And by this time, my father wasn't able or capable of giving me any attention. So I had this sense of neglect, and it was tough. It was really, really tough. But I was first introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 16, and I just I couldn't get it, and so my troubles and with the law continued. I found myself involved with motorcycle clubs like the Hells Angels and the Red Devils, and I quickly got onto their program, and just the troubles just continued. But my ins and outs of Alcoholics Anonymous at an early age finally led to me wanting to end the insanity of alcoholism, and I've finally been able to maintain some continuous sobriety, and I was fortunate enough to have a large support network. And so today, being clean and sober, I facilitate meetings at our local detox center, and I'm able to be of service. And I have a sponsor, Rick M., and I work closely with him on a daily basis, weekly basis. And for me, it's just all about giving back, because my life was so riddled with tragedy and trauma. I quickly want to mention that I'd lost my sister, my father, and my half brother, all related or indirectly related to alcoholism. So, it's just one of those things where that miracle, I believe, is in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And there's been a plan for me all along. I truly believe that my mess is now my message, and I'm able to pay forward a message of hope. And it's been a ride. It's been a ride. It hasn't been easy by any stretch of the imagination, but sponsorship and a home group has really allowed me to feel a part of today, and which I wasn't able to have that sense of part of feeling in my life. So today, living clean and sober hasn't been easy, but it's been well worth it.
Oh, that was amazing, John. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Yeah.
When I was talking with you last week, I couldn't, I don't know if I told you or not, but you and I share a lot of similarities in our stories. And whenever I share my story, people will say, you know, how were you that person and then this person today? Like how have you transformed basically into, the person you are today? And I always throw it back to the fact that I had such a hard upbringing that it made me a different person, and it showed me a world that I didn't know existed. And now that I know it exists, I don't want to go back there, and I don't want anything to do with it. So yeah, you and I are similar in a lot of ways. And when you shared that moment about your sister passing away in 1993, share with me a little bit on that. Like how old were you when she passed away, and what was going through your mind when that happened?
I was I had just turned 18 years old, and again, I was in trouble with the law. I was at a tail end of a sentence, and so Yeah, my sister, she had her own struggles with alcoholism and addiction, and she, she struggled real bad, and she couldn't find the gift of recovery, and so she ended up in some serious abusive relationships, and that's what took her. And she was murdered. She was beaten to death and sexually assaulted to death by her partner, and that event itself, to watch my mom, especially my mom, the pain and that was very, very devastating for me. The effect of watching my mom, and just knowing, or having this vision of what my sister had gone through that particular night, the events that unfolded that night, and not being able to be there,
Mm.
was really traumatizing. Really,
Mm.
really traumatizing. Yeah.
I can't imagine, going through something like that. Um, you had such like you mentioned, you had such an upbringing with the law and, detention centers and, all this other stuff. Um, you said you work at a treatment facility or you volunteer at a treatment facility right now.
Yeah.
What's it like volunteering at a treatment facility? And when you see somebody that comes in that maybe reminds you of you,
Yeah.
is your approach to them a little different than maybe somebody else?
I'll tell you, all the years of my ins and outs of Alcoholics Anonymous, it was just always about me, and so the difference between then and now, being sober today, I'm able to. I'm able to use this service work at the detox center. Um, it's just so beautiful. It's such a beautiful experience, and it enhanced my recovery. It enhanced uh, hope. It really delivers a sense of hope, for me, as well as these men and women in the detox. Because, like I shared, my recovery this time around has not been easy by any stretch of the imagination. Looking at myself and who I was and who I had become, and going through all that mess, you know. And to be able to come out onto the other side, um, and still share this message of hope with people, even while I'm struggling within my own recovery. It's just a miraculous thing. It's just amazing, and I've had some really strong feedback from the clients in the detox, and it's like one alcoholic helping another,
Yeah.
and I see myself through these other people. It's
Mhm.
just amazing. It's just amazing how this gift that I've been given, um, eh, how it just flourishes, from within, right? From
Yeah.
within, and it touches a lot of people. And yeah, it's just a miracle, man. It's just a miracle work. Yeah, it really
I,
is.
I, I bet it fills your heart a lot and makes you feel that you're doing a difference in the world today, John. And I'll tell you something really quick. I don't think I've ever shared this with you, but the first time I spoke at a treatment recovery center was I think in season 2 of Canadian Sober A, when I had the podcast. And after I shared my story, one of the patients there asked if she could go grab her cell phone, and they let her go get her cell phone, and she brought her cell phone to me, and my podcast was her screensaver, and
Beautiful.
it was one of the weirdest exciting moments in my life, and I thought, oh my goodness, I have a stalker. And and I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But I have spoken to that lady since then, and she said, she was grasping at straws, and somebody said, here's the podcast, like maybe you should listen to it. And she had listened to every episode up until that talk. And it was just one of those moments, I'm sure you've had a couple of them, where you felt, you know what, I think that kid's going to get it, you know, or I think that person's going to get it, you know. There's certain a grit you see in people when they're in treatment facilities and centers and stuff. And I've spoken at a few now, but you can tell almost which ones are there to actually get to work and which ones are there just to get people off their back. Would that be kind of true to say?
Absolutely, absolutely. And listen, you know, like the rewards for me, I'll tell you, is not only going into the detox and sharing, but the most rewarding part is seeing some of these people attend Alcoholics Anonymous meetings after they leave and stay sober for 2-3 months, and they're on their journey. Right now, I don't take any credit for that, because all I believe is that I'm just a channel. I'm used as a channel of hope. Of you know, if I can do this, anybody can do this, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's just a beautiful thing, especially like I said, seeing them leave that center and take that courageous step forward and change their lives around, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I've had a question. I don't know why I've never asked this question, but I think you're the first guest I'm gonna ask this question to, and it's more or less for the individual sitting at home or watching this on YouTube a month from now, or doing whatever. In your definition, in your words, what would you consider an addict? What would you consider an alcoholic?
Someone that has zero defense against any thought or any physical just no defense against the substance itself. You know, I used to look at people straight in the face with true meaning. I'm not going to drink today. I don't want to drink today. I don't want to drug today, and end up drugging or drinking. Right. And I truly meant my words. Right. But I had no defense. I had nothing separating John from John. Right. And so really it's that obsession that would definitely define my alcoholism or my drug addiction.
Yeah, and would you say, like, that's the mental health side of it, right? Like that's where, you know, they tell us that, you know, addicts can't be alone by themselves in their own thoughts.
No,
you know,
that's the worst place to be.
Yeah, right. I had somebody tell me one time, they said, you don't know what it's like to relapse. And I looked at them and said, I relapsed every day of my life before I came into the program, right? Like,
yeah.
Every day I said I wasn't going to drink and I wasn't going to use. And guess what? I drank and I used, you know? So if you were to put, and I know it ranges with different people, if you were to put a number on it, you know, like when you go to the doctor's office and he gets you to fill out that form and he's like, you know, how many drinks do you have in the week? And, you know, and you lie on it and you say, you know, I have like 3, you know, like what would you say daily the number would be that you would maybe consider somebody an alcoholic?
You know, that's a good question, because I find that there's different types of alcoholics, you know. But I mean, anything that that starts with 1 ends with whatever that number may be, right? So it's that first drink that really is the one that takes us, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, it wasn't about how much I could drink. It was about picking that first one up, knowing what it's going to do to me, right?
Yeah, the obsession of more, right?
Yeah,
I want more.
That physical allergy. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, honey, I'm driving out I got to go pick something up at Canadian Tire, but you're not telling her you're going to the beer store on the way, you know,
exactly. Yeah.
that
mental obsession, that physical allergy where it's just more, and more. Right.
Yeah.
But it always starts with that first one for me.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. You know, we don't have much time left, but tell me a little bit about what you do on a daily basis to make sure John stays mentally and physically, you know, fit in your day-to-day life.
I'm I need to be spiritually fit. Part of my story, my whole story basically was that hole in the soul. I had a broken soul at an early age. So healing that on a routinely basis really allows me the opportunity to have that defense against any kind of substance, that's huge for me, is that the spiritual side for me is where it's at. If I don't have that power plugged in, I'm not plugged into that power, I'm done,
Yeah.
and I know it, and I know
Mhm.
it. So
So would you say service to you in the program is a huge plus?
1000%.
Yeah.
1000%. Helping others. Yeah. Getting out of myself. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like you've done all those things, you've done all the do things, you have a normal job, you have a normal life, and you're doing great work in the program, and you're doing great work in your life. And I think sometimes we don't credit ourselves enough because we want to stay humble, and we don't want to like over gloat it, right? Like we don't want to like, saying I'm the best, which is
Yeah.
never the case. But um, you know, I'm sitting here today, John, after listening to your story and knowing you for a little while. You definitely are a recovery warrior, my friend. And I hope, you know, you mentioned struggles. We all go through struggles. I can tell you that I go through struggles 8+ years sober. So just keep on the right side of the tracks. Keep doing the do things, and I'll see you at the party someday.
You bet.
And
You
we'll
bet.
have a coffee, and we'll hug it out. And I'm just grateful to know you today.
I really appreciate you having me on, Dougie. I really do.
Oh yeah, man, it was a blast. Thank you so much.
Right on.
Thanks everybody for joining us today on Canadian Sober, eh? Join me next week when I'll have another amazing guest like John on, and we'll chat a little bit more then. Peace and love, everybody, wherever you are. See you next week.